Hey everyone, Mr. Sujano here, your source for gaming, tech, emulation, and open source news. Let's get started. Alright, to kick things off, we're talking about something that I would say is pretty exciting in the modding and 3DS and Virtual Boy emulation space. We're talking about Red Viper, and listen to this from the developer. Marking the Virtual Boy's 30th anniversary, I'm releasing Red Viper version 1.0.0, featuring more advanced palette configuration and CirclePad Pro support. And heading on over to GitHub, and there seems to be even more in this release. They've added a software renderer to reduce virtual glitches enabled in Golf, double buffering to hide garbage frames and improve frame time accuracy enabled in Red Alarm and Bound High, numerous performance improvements, and even more. Red Viper is 100% free and open source, and if you haven't put it together yet, it's a Virtual Boy emulator for the Nintendo 3DS, which I think is a perfect match for the system. If you're interested in it and wanted to learn more about it, like everything we talk about, links are in the description below right at the bottom. I don't hide my sources. But speaking about hiding sources, next up we're talking about the Stop Killing Games initiative. Now, we've been talking about Stop Killing Games shortly after it was conceived and publicized, and we've been talking about it ever since then. We've covered it when it's been gaining momentum, and we're covering it now when it seems that companies or corporations or lobbyists or someone is shaking in their boots. So this is a brand new video over on Accursed Farms, which I do recommend checking out. And it's titled, "The Industry Filed False Claims Against the Stop Killing Games Initiative." The kicker is we don't know who specifically filed the claim. Now, this video is just under 20 minutes long, and I think it's packed with a lot of very interesting information. And based on my understanding here, there were some false claims that have been lodged against Stop Killing Games, or Stop Destroying Video Games as it's called in the EU. And a lot of these claims seem to be incorrect or false. And I'm wondering here if this stuff is just the start of what's to come. Now, before I get into more details about this, first and foremost, I think it's worth pointing out here that based on my understanding, Ross isn't even a part of the Stop Destroying Video Games initiative in the EU. I mean, under the organizers, he's not even listed. Is he volunteering a lot of his time? Absolutely yes. Ross from Accursed Farms is, I would say, helping out greatly. But he's volunteering his time. He's doing the work absolutely free out of the goodness of his heart, out of the desire to see the campaign succeed. And the second thing here, I believe the campaign already checked before they went down this alley to make sure that it was okay for Ross to be volunteering. And it turns out that I'm pretty sure everything is A-okay there. But the false claim claims otherwise. So here's what I think are the two false claims. Number one, false no funding declaration. Currently displays no content available under sources of funding, indicating the organizers have declared zero funding sources. And number two, and I think this is the big one, systematic concealment of major contribution. This declaration appears fundamentally incorrect based on publicly documented evidence of substantial undisclosed professional contributions to the campaign. As for the evidence of the undisclosed contribution, I guess they're from Russ Scott's volunteer work. So one thing here, there have been many weeks on the campaign where I've been working 12 to 14 hours a day to keep things moving to get signatures. And also, I've been running a rickshaw carrying people to the destination. I hope they don't think he's using an actual rickshaw. And here's the other stuff. Multiple media interviews identifying Scott as handling the standard day-to-day work of running the Stop Killing Games initiative. And Scott described as the primary strategic decision maker and public spokesperson throughout the campaign. And this is where things get even more weird. I guess from a conservative estimate, they're estimating that Ross has spent 15 to 20 weeks at high intensity, 12 to 14 hours a day, at a professional rate of 50 to 75 euros an hour. With a minimum estimated value of 63,000 to 147,000 euros in professional contribution, which Ross says is false. So based on my understanding here, these numbers are completely made up and factually incorrect. And the minimum estimated value, Ross says in his life he's never made $63,000 a year, 63,000 euro a year, which I think is even more. That's very interesting to me, and it kind of reminds me of a straw man argument. For those who may be unaware, straw man fallacy is the distortion of someone else's argument to make it easier to attack or refute. Instead of addressing the actual argument of the opponent, one may present a somewhat similar but not equal argument. Furthermore, by placing it in the opponent's mouth and then attacking that version of the argument, one is essentially refuting an argument that is different from the one under discussion. Now, in my opinion here, and I could be wrong, but I believe a lot of the arguments against the Stop Killing Games initiative have kind of been straw man arguments. I mean, if you take a look at that whole pirate software controversy, I would say that was an example of a straw man fallacy. If you take a look at Video Games Europe and that arguably lobbying group that issued that statement against Stop Killing Games, I would say that was also kind of a straw man. And now taking a look at these false claims, I would say are also kind of a straw man, where they're more or less misrepresenting something. I mean, hear me out based on this information. Strawman fallacy can take different forms and may involve taking an opponent's words out of context, for example, choosing words that misrepresent their intention, exaggerating or oversimplifying an opponent's argument and then attacking that distorted version, fabricating claims that the opponent never actually made, and changing small but important details in the opponent's original argument. Now again, if this is not an example of a straw man argument or fallacy, let me know in the comments below, and I would be very interested to hearing what you think it might actually be. But based on what I've seen so far, Video Games Europe, the lobbying group campaigning so far against Stop Killing Games, it seems, as well as these false claims and what I'm kind of seeing out in the industry, I'm assuming that this is the tip of the iceberg as to what is to come next. And I'm very curious to see what happens next. I'm assuming here things may start to get ugly against the Stop Killing Games initiative. Again, in my opinion here, and this might be a hot take, but I really don't think so. I think the Stop Killing Games initiative is pretty much as clean as it can get. The Stop Destroying Video Games in the EU, the exact same, as clean as it can get. It seems very pro-consumer. It seems very simple and straightforward. And I think it's going to be pretty hard to try to dig up dirt or malice or anything surrounding this campaign to smear it in any way, shape, or form. None that can be easily refuted. But regardless of what happens, I'll be doing my best here to pay attention to the initiative and what's going on and to let you know what I know about it. So as of right now, I don't really think the initial claims, the false claims that have been lodged against the Stop Killing Games initiative would hold up at all. But I am curious to see if they're kind of testing the waters here to see what else will be next. Who knows? But speaking about knowing stuff, next up here we're talking about Modern Vintage Gamer. And Modern Vintage Gamer has a brand new video out that I highly recommend checking out. I find it extremely amazing. I'm a huge fan of this emulator. And it's how ZSNES or ZSNES or ZSNES or ZSNES or subscribe to Mr. Sujano, however you want to pronounce it, pioneered modern emulation. MVG covers pretty much everything there is to know about ZSNES, and for those who may not be aware, ZSNES was a very prominent SNES emulator with an iconic menu screen. Anyways, here an interesting fact, ZSNES is Canadian, more or less. One of the main developers lived in Canada. Overall here, I'd say the video is a really cool look into history, a really nice walk down memory lane. And I do recommend checking it out, and don't tell MVG this, but this is one of my favorite videos of his. Huge fan of ZSNES. I've got a lot of nostalgia regarding this emulator. And I'm also very happy for what it brought to the emulation community overall. And on a side note here, fun fact, ZSNES is still around. The website is still up. The emulator is still available to be downloaded for Windows, DOS, or Linux. But the latest version on this one, the latest stable version, is version 1.51, which was released back in 2007. And speaking about interesting videos, next up here, we're talking about a very interesting video about a ROM hack for Super Mario World on the SNES. And it's called Castlemania II. The video showcasing this ROM hack is about 20 minutes long. It showcases quite a bit of gameplay, a lot of different elements of the ROM hack. And if you're a fan of Super Mario World, if you're a fan of Castlemania, you might be a fan of this ROM hack. I mean, even taking a look at the video here, a lot of stuff seems to have been customized. The levels, the enemies, the entire story, everything pretty much. Let me know your thoughts about this one in the comments below. And if you watch the video, in the description of this video, there are some very interesting links. And speaking about interesting stuff, next up we're talking about old school RuneScape. Talk about a game that continues to support the community. Anyways, here, if you're excited about OSRS, you might be excited about this news. They've added in more servers. So they say here there's new worlds added to East traffic, 4 in US East, 3 in US West, and 2 in the UK. And speaking about old stuff, next up we're talking about a very interesting game dump. Video Game Esoterica has a brand new video titled The Rarest Arcade Dump of 2025. Cooper's 9 preserved and playable today. If you wanted to learn more about the game, I'd recommend checking out Video Game Esoterica's video. I mean, he covers the history of the game, the rarity. There's like 6 arcade cabinets or something like that for this one. And the fact that it has been preserved, I would say, I don't want to say it's a miracle, but I would say this is a very big win for preservation. Next up, we're switching from old to new and talking about the Nintendo Switch 2. And this is the headline over at Video Games Chronicle, and I believe the information came from Famitsu. Nintendo Switch 2 is selling at least 3 times faster than Switch 1 in Japan. Switch 2 has smashed a new sales record in Japan, this time beating PlayStation 2's first month. Now, before we go further on this, there are a few things I want you to consider. First and foremost, Nintendo had a lot of Switch 2s available at launch. They anticipated a big launch. Secondly, Japan has the special priced Switch 2 that's not available anywhere else. Thirdly, there are arguably more gamers, and gaming is much bigger than it was in PS2's era. And the fourth thing here, there may be some magic sales numbers that come out of Sony to beat Nintendo. Who knows? Anyways, there's no denying the Switch 2 has been a smash success since its launch, and the price hasn't really seemed to affect the overall sales numbers, at least not in a negative way. The arguable high pricing globally of the Switch 2 seems to not really deter people from buying it, at least not perceivably. On top of that, there seems to be a lot of marketing right now pushing Mario Kart World as well as Donkey Kong Bonanza. I mean, I've seen a lot of content creators out there praising Donkey Kong Bonanza recently. I'd recommend checking out Video Games Chronicle for more information on the matter and specific numbers, and they even have the link to the Famitsu article where they got the information from. Interestingly here, the Game Boy Advance previously held the record for Nintendo machines, selling 1.367 million units for the first month. And the Switch 2 is coming at 1.538 million units for the first month. According to these numbers, in Japan, the Switch 2 has beat the original Switch by almost 1 million units, almost 3 times the sales. The big question here from a lot of people, myself included, is will this momentum continue? Can Nintendo continue to pump out Switch 2s at the pace that they seem to be selling? Can Nintendo continue the sales momentum overall and maybe overtake a bunch of other records? So based on the pace that we're seeing sales right now, I would say even though there are some controversies surrounding the Switch 2, it doesn't seem like it's mattering in terms of the overall sales figures, and the Switch 2 seems like it may be one of the best-selling consoles of all time. And speaking about sales, next up we're talking about Old School Rally, which is now back on the Steam store after being taken down by a DMCA. So the Old School Rally development team has worked pretty quickly to remove the offending cars from their game, and I guess they will be replaced with other models moving forward. We'll have to wait and see what all of those will be. But if you're interested in the game and it was on your wish list, it should now be back on there. Next up, we're talking about smartphones, specifically the upcoming Samsung Galaxy Z Fold 7. And if you're in the market for one of these phones, Samsung has unveiled some very interesting information, some very good information, for them at least, for this upcoming phone. So here's the headline right on the Samsung Display website. Samsung Display's foldable OLED panel proves exceptional durability with 500,000 fold test. So they say here, and this is the big one, proven to last over 10 years for average users and over 6 years for heavy users who fold their devices more than 200 times a day, without durability concerns. For reference, this is a huge step up from something like the Samsung Galaxy Z Fold 5, which had a 200,000 fold time, so this is like 150% more. but it does pale in comparison to something like the OnePlus Open, which has 1 million in terms of fold times. And speaking about exciting stuff, next up we're talking about Fallout Bakersfield. And if you're a fan of fan-made stuff and modding, well, you might be a fan of this. Now, I don't know about you, but to me this looks super cool and super well done. For those who may be unaware, Fallout Bakersfield is a non-commercial 1993 Doom total conversion using GZ Doom. So I guess if you are a Fallout fan and you're a Doom fan, this may be up your alley. This is something I'm very, very interested in checking out. And last up here, we're talking about Nintendo Switch emulation with Eden. Now, we talked about Eden yesterday with their updated website design as well as a few other thoughts about the emulator. Interestingly, I referred to 0.2 alpha as the latest update, but I may have been incorrect. So taking a look at their GitHub, in version 0.0.2 pre-alpha was the latest update I talked about yesterday. It was dated May 11th. However, I did miss this, so this is more of just a correction for yesterday's video. There was a release put out 2 weeks ago called Temporary Backup. Interestingly, here in this update, there's a bunch of different packages for a bunch of different systems. I mean, Android is here, the Steam Deck is here, the ROG Ally X is here, and even more. It seems like it's a very compatible emulator. But anyways, that is all I've got for you in this one. Straight to the point, all stuff and no fluff. We talked about a bunch today. Feel free to discuss anything we talked about in the comments below. If you liked this video, leave a like. If you didn't like this video, leave a like. Hit that subscribe button. Check out my other videos. Don't tempt fate. Save your state.